Welcome to the sermon, Go and Rest. Remember last Sunday, Wayne was feeling sick, and I said the title of the sermon today is Come and Rest. But for you, go to your house and rest. There is time for us to come and rest. There's also time for you to go and actually rest. Today we're going to talk about the importance of having a day and a time for us to rest, starting in Genesis and coming to today, 2025. Let's start in Genesis chapter 2, verse 2. It says, "By the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work." And when you get to this verse, you may ask yourself, why did he rest? It doesn't say that he was tired. Like he was tired and then he rested. That makes sense, It doesn't say that he needed to rest. It just says that on the seventh day, after he created everything, he rested. Maybe he rested, maybe you can think like the way we think right now, is he needed to rest because then on the next day he needed to do more or he needed to do something else. So after you work 6 days, you need to rest because then you need to continue doing something. It doesn't say that. But what it says is that God had finished the work he had been doing, and then he rested. And I was thinking maybe the idea that we can get from that is, okay, so if we finish our work, then maybe we can rest, But then we come to verse 3, and verse 3 says, "Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done." So he made that day special, like with no reason of normal things that we think. He worked so hard and he was tired that he needed to rest. He did his creation, seventh day he rested, and then he made it holy. And holy means that he separated that day from the rest of the days. He made it special, And so far we know in these verses and in chapter 1 that he created everything, that he created heavens and earth, that he created human beings, that he created us in his own image, that he said at some point, "It is very good. Everything that I have created, it is very good." And we know so far that he rested. And we are created in his image. If God rested, then we need to rest. Because in that way we participate in the image of God. We participate in creation with him because he worked and then he rested. And actually we are designed that way. If we don't sleep, we die. We need to rest. But sometimes that kind of rest is more a forced rest instead of like a rest. If you read verse 1 and verse 2, you don't find like a solid reason for him to rest. It was just that he decided to rest. Because if you think about it, maybe God is never tired because he's God. He didn't actually need to rest. It was his decision to rest. He created us in his image, and then he separated that day. And I think that one of the reasons why he did that is because what we're going to read in the Bible is that we're going to see how several times people are coming back to that time, coming back and say, but he rested on that day. He made it holy. He separated that day. So it was an example for us to follow. And we can see that when the people of Israel were coming out of Egypt and they were going and walking with Moses, we got to Exodus chapter 20 and verse 8 and 11. And if you read chapter 20, is the 10 Commandments, what we normally know as the 10 Commandments. One of the commandments of the 10 Commandments is in verse 8 through 11. It says, "Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy." And we have just read that he rested on that day and he made it holy. One of the 10 Commandments says, "Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns." Verse 11, "For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, but he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy." part of the Ten Commandments, part of the things that we normally know the Ten Commandments. And if you see, normally the Ten Commandments are just one verse. This takes 3 verses to explain that you need to do this. In the other commandments, it says like, you shall not do this. You shall not do this. But in this one, it says, remember the Sabbath day. Because, and it gives reasons for that. Also, it's something that you don't see in the other like commandments. Say, you shall not do this. That's it. But in this one, he explains why you need to rest. Because he created everything on 6 days. And on the 7th day, he rested. He blessed that day, and he made it holy. And now he's asking us, as a commandment, or he was asking the people of Israel, as a commandment, you need to do this. You need to do that. And then if we can read it, if we could read it, in chapter 31 of Exodus, he says, if you don't keep the Sabbath, you're going to die. Even to the point that the consequence of not keeping the Sabbath day was death. So it was that important for God to say, you need to keep this day. You need to make it holy. You need to separate from everything. You need to stop your work. And you need to dedicate this day for me. It's a day for you, and it's a day for me. And there were several consequences. And then if you see, like in the prophets, like in Ezekiel, he talks to Ezekiel, and he's talking to the people of Israel, and he's telling a bunch of sins that they have been committing. And one of the sins that God said to them is, Israel desecrated the Sabbath day, my Sabbaths. Because there was not just Sabbath. There were like 3 different Sabbaths, the year, and another year that everybody needed to rest. But it's so important that one of the sins that God says, in the middle of all the sins that Israel has committed at that point, is they desecrated. They didn't remember my Sabbath. They were like doing everything on the Sabbath. And that's part of the things why they are going into this situation and this problem. And then in that verse in Ezekiel, he say, they disobeyed God's law. That was one of the reasons that God says they are breaking the law. They are not respecting, they're not remembering the Sabbath day. And then they go to exile. You know all that story, or some of you don't know, but they went to exile because of the rebellion that they were doing against God. And then at some point, God said, I'm going to bring you back together. They come back together. And when they came back together, they said, now we need to be really onto the law, and we need to fulfill everything because we don't want to do this again. And they became legalistic. And in that environment of legalistic is the environment that Jesus came. And then he's surrounded by that legalistic environment of Pharisees and Sadducees, and all day they were like, we need to do this in this way, or you're not doing it good. We need to do this, or you're wrong. We need to do this. And they got to the point where they were trying to protect what the law says, but they were forgetting other things. And that's the conversations between Jesus and them. It's like, yes, you're saying that, but you missed the point. The point is this. Yes, you're saying that, but you missed the point. The point is this. And then we got to the verse that we read last Sunday, that it says that the apostles and Jesus were walking on the Sabbath day, and then they started picking some fruits from the tree, and then they started eating that, and then there's a Pharisee that came and said, is it lawful for them to pick the fruit or the fruit from the tree and eat it? Because that is work. Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath? Is it awful? Is it lawful to do good? And I was thinking about this because I found myself in 2024, last year, and I said, well, that is part of the law. And because I am part of the grace, I don't do that. You know? That's not part of me. That's not part of the new covenant. So I don't keep the Sabbath. Why? It's part of the law. You know? I find myself last year saying that to myself, like if at some point God said to me, yeah, that was part of the law, now you are under the grace, that means go and work 24/7 till you get so tired and depressed and, go and work so hard and welcome to the grace of God. But I found myself last year in the middle of that. I don't keep the Sabbath. I'm not a you. You know? You barely rest any, because now you are under the grace. You don't need to dedicate a day for me, because now you are under the grace. You know? And then you start thinking, well, I don't dedicate one day, I dedicate every day. But in the middle of that, if you notice and you like zoom in into your life, what you're actually doing is more following what the world is telling you to do and the environment of the world than what God is wanting you to do. You know? And it's an excuse for you or for me last year. It was like doing that. And the problem of that also is that we connect to the world and we keep the rhythm of like, if you rest, then you're going to get behind. If you take up time for you to rest, you're going to get behind. Like everybody else is moving. And then everything is going faster right now with the internet and everything. Everything is just going so much faster than 50 years old or even 20 years old. Everything is just going so fast. If you rest a little bit, you're going to get behind. And why do we get to that point? On top of the idea that we said, or that I was saying, I don't know about you, but I was saying, that's part of the law. I don't practice that. This is the book, there is a book that is called The Emotionally Healthy Leader by Pete Scazzero. And he said, Sabbath can be terrifying because doing nothing productive leaves us feeling vulnerable. We may feel emotional exposure and nakedness before God or others. Overworking hides these feelings of inadequacy or worthlessness, not just from others, but also from ourselves. As long as we keep busy, we can outrun that internal voice that says things like, I am never enough. I am never safe enough. I am never perfect enough. I am never extraordinary enough. I am never successful enough. And that's one of the reasons behind that excuse for us to say we don't rest. It's because we are hiding those feelings of, I am not good enough. So I need to perform to show that I'm good enough. You know, I am not perfect enough. So I need to keep doing and keep trying because I need to prove that I am perfect enough. You know, and those voices are there. I'm not extraordinary enough. So I need to work hard 24/7. And thank God because of the grace is allowing me to do that. To perform and to work and to do more and to be the savior of this world. You know? And to keep doing it because those emotions are there. And while we keep our minds busy and while we keep ourselves busy, we don't have time to go and think about that. We don't have to go and face those traumas and emotions that are behind us as long as we keep us busy. If we stop one day, those things are going to start coming to the front. But what if your neighbor is working right now? This person is working right now. Why are you resting? Why are you dedicating a day to God? If you know you need to work, if you know you need to provide for your family, if you know you need to do this, and you know you need to do that. And sometimes also what we find ourselves is in the middle of those situations and then we keep ourselves busy. Like, why are you doing nothing? Go and read the Bible, you know? Like if God is not present in that solitude moment. Like if God is not doing something while you're doing nothing, you know? Like if God needs you to do something for him to be God. But sometimes what happens is those emotions and those feelings are there, and we don't want to bring them back. We don't want to bring those things, so we just want to keep busy. If we stop, at some point those things are going to come to the front, and maybe we're not ready to face that. As long as we keep busy, we forget those things, and they are disappearing. But they're actually not disappearing. They're just growing and getting bigger. At some point, they're going to hug you and slap you in the face. And I think some of the other things that we missed when I missed when I found myself last year saying, that's part of the law. I don't do that. I don't keep the Sabbath. Is that we forget that in Mark, for example, chapter 2, verse 27 and 28, Jesus said, then he said to them, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even on the Sabbath. Originally, when he was created, God did it for you and for me. When he said, now is a commandment, he did it for you and for me. And we came under the grace and we say, like, thank you for doing that. We don't care about that. Thank you for doing that. Now we need to be busy. Now we need to work. Now we need to do this. Now we need to keep us busy. We missed also some parts like in Paul saying in Galatians chapter 5, verse 14, for the entire law, and he's talking about the law, Old Testament law, for the entire law is fulfilled in keeping this one command: love your neighbor as yourself. And that's our second vision, plan. Love God, love people, make disciples. And Paul is saying the entire law, including keeping the Sabbath, is fulfilled in love your neighbor as yourself. How is fulfilled? Because when you stop, you give time for yourself, you give time for your relationship with God, you give time for you and the other people around you, you give time for you to enjoy just being instead of doing the whole time. And then you can love yourself in that way. And we can love others the same way. The entire law is fulfilled. You can go to any of the commandments, and they will be in love your neighbor as yourself. But we don't. We don't do that, you know. And the problem, we don't stop, we don't rest, we don't dedicate a specific day to the Lord. And the problem is that in the process, we take the people around us in that boat of tiredness and exhaustion. And I was doing that last year with my family. You know, we got to the point where we're like, we don't know what's wrong. I mean, I work in a church, it's supposed to be a good thing. But at the same time, we're tired. We don't have connections. We don't have time for us to share and to spend some time together. We're just tired all the time because of what we're doing. Because even if you work in a church, you're normally doing and performing, because you think that if you don't do or perform, then God is not going to be happy with you. Then you're not doing good. Then you're doing wrong, you know? And then I find myself living and carrying my family into that boat of let's do, and let's do, and let's do. And we got to the point where we're so tired. We need to do something about it. And I was reading this book, The Emotionally Healthy Leader, and I remember that we were at camp together, at King's Camp last year. And there was a moment that I had to have a conversation with Princess because she was feeling so tired and so emotionally tired, and we didn't know why. And we have to have this conversation we need to change our rhythms. We need to do something different. And what we basically did is that we went back to the beginning, Genesis 2. He rested on the seventh day. And we said we need to schedule our time in such a way that we keep a time to connect with God, a time to connect with one another, a time to rest, a time where we're going to trust that God is in control, a time where we're going to trust that He is going to bless us no matter what. Even if we do a lot, or even if we do less, if we can perform miracles and a bunch of things, or even if we are not able to do that because of some reason, He is still God. He created everything. He created you in His own image, and then He rested. And then He said, this day is made for you to rest, for you to enjoy. And also what happens in the middle of that is that we take those days of rest to do a bunch of things. And we actually don't rest. The only thing that we do is that we don't go to work. But we're just busy. We're doing chores, we're doing laundry, we're doing this, now you need to do that, and now we're going to clean the house. And we find ourselves in the middle of that dynamic. And we're basically replicating the same that we were doing in the other way, but in another way. And that's the whole idea of you need to keep performing, you need to keep doing. Because if you stop, then this house is going to fall apart. Then this family is going to fall apart. Then the school is going to fall apart. Then our finances are going to fall apart. Then everything is going to fall apart. Then the church is going to fall apart. Like if we are God's. Like if we are Jesus. Like if we can actually do something about that. We are just going by and trying to do our best. But this world is spinning not because of what we're doing, but because of the power of God and the love of God and what He is doing in this world and in our lives and in your life right now. So we find ourselves in the middle of that situation, and then we say, we need to start doing something. And we start doing something. And now we're a little bit in a better place. Maybe not in the place that we need to be, but we're a little bit better. Because there was a moment where I realized that my legalistic vision of the Bible was taking me to be more like the world than like Jesus. My legalistic way to interpret the Bible was taking me, because actually if you go to Genesis was way before Moses and the law. It was established way before he said, this is what you need to keep. And then when Jesus came, he lived under that. He rested every Sabbath day, including the day he died, because he died just right before the Sabbath, and then he rested dying. And then after that, he kept keeping the Sabbath. That was the day where Paul will go into the synagogues and will preach about Jesus. That was kept the whole time. They never said, like, this is part of the law, we're not going to do it anymore. Now we can work every single day. And this is not an invitation for you to go and be legalistic and say, like, now we need to, because in the Bible it says this and then do that and all that, because you're missing the point. The day was made for you, not you for the day. Now it's not a worry that you need to have. Right now, how are we going to do that now? And now you're carrying that burden again. The day was made for you. That space was made for you. Because the point is not that it's on Sabbath, on Saturday. That's not the point. Because then you go to the legalistic side. It has to be on Saturday. We cannot do anything on Saturday. We cannot work on Saturday. If we do it on Saturday, we're going to miss then Jesus will be like, no, you missed the point. This was not made for you to come. This was made for you. This is a space that I have dedicated for you. And the invitation is not also to be like careless. Like, I don't care about that, I just keep thinking that it's part of the law, so I'm not going to do it. I keep saying that if I do one part of the law, then I need to do the whole thing, or I'm going to miss the whole thing, If you don't want to take it that way, then take it from the other way. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love yourself in that way, and love your neighbor, the people next to you, in that way. Because we don't realize, but they're carrying that burden with you. They're taking that burden with you. They're so tired, they are overwhelmed, they are over everything because of that rhythm that we are taking them with you. And then they're going to replicate whatever we're doing, But if we stop and we trust that He's in control, that He's going to provide, they're going to see that. And then maybe at some point they're going to replicate that. Number 1 recommendation, set aside a time. Like, determine when is going to be your Sabbath. The point is not that it has to be on a Saturday, again. It can be on a Tuesday, it can be on a Monday, it doesn't matter. The point is that you spend a time, that you set aside a time that you say, this is my time. And in the Old Testament, it was a 24-hour. It was 6 p.m. on Friday to 6 p.m. on Saturday. Again, that's not the point. I'm just saying that was the way it was done. But that's not the point. Now, if you do 23 hours and then you're going to think to yourself, I'm doing it wrong. If I only can do 10 hours, I'm doing it wrong. And again, this time is for you, not that time for you. Like, set aside a time. Have a conversation with your family. Have a conversation with yourself if you're single. When are you going to have that time for you and for God and to spend some time with one another? And like God, and that's number 2, keep it holy. Keep it holy means separated. It means that you're protecting that time because things, for sure, 100% are going to come. Like, things are going to happen in that day that you're going to set aside a time that you're going to say, like, this day we're going to rest as the family. We're going to spend some time with God. We're going to read. We're going to sing songs. Maybe that day is easy for you on Sunday. Like, for me, it's not because it's the day that I work. But maybe for you it's easy because you come to church. And then you can spend the rest of the day doing something relaxing, something with your family, enjoying time with one another, like looking one another without having to do anything, But things are going to come. Like, then something got broke in the house. Then you need to do this call. Because if I don't do this call right now, everything is going to fall apart. And then you're going to find yourself in the middle of that other rhythm. Like, if I don't do it right now, then it's going to go crazy. If I don't send this email right now, everything is going to fall apart tomorrow. Think about those things, And how much are you trusting in God? How much are you trusting in His provision? How much are you trusting that He can take care of you and He can control and lead you and guide you into the process? Keep it holy. A lot of things are going to come. Keep it holy. It's a time that you're going to respect, that you're going to say, this is time for me. And it's a commitment, and it's a commitment between you and God. You don't have to come and say next Sunday, hey, guys, everybody, you can have accountability with other people. But it's something between you and God because God made it for you. not for anything else. Number 3, it's a time to rest, to be with God, to be with yourself, and to be with people. That's what you can do in that time. Be with God. And I don't know how often are you with God. I don't know how often and what are specific rhythms in your life that you have. But set aside a time where you know you're going to be with Him, where you know you're not going to do chores, where you know you're going to do laundry, where you know you're going to do anything. And you need to prepare to get to that point. If you don't prepare, then everything is going to fall apart that day. But if you prepare on that, and it's not going to be easy at first, let me tell you. It's going to take time for you to get to that rhythm of, now we work, rest, work, rest, work, rest. But you can get to that point. To rest, to be with God, to be with yourself, and to be with your people. Number 4, it is legal, it is lawful for you to do good. That doesn't mean like a person come and ask you for some help and you're like, sorry guy, I'm resting today. The day was made for you. Like, oh yeah, sorry about that. I'm resting. This is actually my first day. I cannot go and help. I cannot go and serve today. Because Danny said that we need to keep it holy. That was the question to Jesus. Is it lawful for you to heal? Boom, healed. Is it lawful for you to heal? Boom, everybody was healed. Like, it's lawful. It is legal for you to do good. It is legal for you to take your spouse and do something special. It is legal for you to do good and to serve in some kind of capacity. Is it legal for you to do some good for yourself as well? It's legal for you to take some time for yourself. It's legal for you to do good things. It is legal. You have permission to do that. Let me just read one more thing from Drew Jackson. He has a book of poems, and the book is called God Speaks Through Wombs. And then he's talking about the Sabbath, or that time of rest that you can have. And it says, this sanctuary in time offers us the gift of return. It beckons us back to our Genesis, where being human is all we seek to accomplish. It was given not for us to serve it, but to serve us as a fountain of grace, where we can remember that we are not our labor, that our true vocation is the double love of God and neighbor. It is a day for reorientation and recalibration, where celebration takes center stage. On this day, we renew our connection with the community of all that has been made, and with the Maker of all created things. Go and rest. Go and do it today. Try today. Do nothing today. And see if tomorrow everything is just fall apart. If you want to test God, then go and do it. Do whatever way you want. But I know He's in control. I know He's taking care. I know you can do it. Go today and rest. How many sermons do you need about this? Go today and rest. Or sometime this week, go and rest. Take some time for you and God and rest and with your people. And maybe you will find yourself in an awkward moment of like, so what are we doing now? And maybe you're going to start like, something in you are going to start like moving and something like that, because it's okay. Let it go and rest and trust. Go and rest. God bless you.